Farmer Joe was a kind man. He had a big heart. He loved his farm. He grew the juiciest tomatoes. He grew crunchy carrots too. One day Joe needed some tools. The tools were in the old barn. The barn was dark and dusty. Cobwebs hung from the rafters. Joe carefully stepped inside. The floorboards creaked under his feet. He hoped he could find his tools quickly. The barn always made him a little nervous. Joe looked for his toolbox. It was behind some old sacks. He bent down to move them. That's when he saw it. A snake was curled up. It was right next to the toolbox. It had scales that shimmered like jewels, but its eyes looked mean. Joe froze. He didn't know what to do. He'd never seen a snake in his barn before. Should he try to shoo it away? Before Joe could move, the snake struck. It lunged at him with incredible speed. Joe felt a sharp pain in his ankle. "Ouch!" cried Joe. He jumped back in shock. The snake slithered away into the shadows. Joe saw 2 small puncture marks on his ankle. They were starting to bleed. Joe knew this was serious. He needed to get help, and fast. Joe limped out of the barn as fast as he could. He called for his wife, Mary. "Mary, Mary, I've been bitten by a snake!" Mary came running. She gasped when she saw Joe's ankle. "Oh my, Joe, we need to get you to the hospital, quickly!" Mary helped Joe into their truck. Joe felt scared. His ankle throbbed with pain. He hoped he would be all right. Section 5, at the hospital. Mary drove as fast as she could. They finally reached the hospital. Joe limped inside with Mary supporting him. "Help! My husband has been bitten by a snake!" Mary cried out to the nurses. The nurses rushed Joe into a room. A doctor came to examine his ankle. Joe felt scared. Section 6, a dose of medicine. The doctor looked serious. He carefully cleaned Joe's wound. "Don't worry," he said calmly. "We will give you some medicine. It will make you feel better." The doctor gave Joe an injection. The medicine stung a bit, but Joe knew it would help him get better. He lay back on the bed and closed his eyes. The throbbing in his ankle started to fade. He was thankful he was in good hands. Section 7, a slow recovery. Joe had to stay in the hospital for a few days. The doctors and nurses took good care of him. They gave him more medicine and checked on him regularly. Mary stayed by his side. She read him stories and kept him company. Joe felt so grateful for her. Every day Joe felt a little bit better. The swelling in his ankle went down. The pain slowly disappeared. He just wanted to go home. Section 8, lessons learned. Finally, the doctor said Joe could go home. "You are very lucky, Joe," the doctor said. "That was a close call. Always be careful in the old barn. There might be surprises lurking in the shadows." Joe nodded. He knew the doctor was right. He had learned his lesson. He would be more cautious from now on. Joe thanked the doctor and nurses. He was so happy to be going home. Section 9, back to the fields. Back at the farm, Joe slowly started working again. He was still a bit wary of the old barn, but he made sure to wear thick boots and gloves whenever he went inside. He never saw the snake again, and he was glad. He was just happy to be alive and well. He had learned that even in the quiet countryside, danger could be lurking just around the corner. From that day on, Joe always reminded everyone, be careful where you step and never underestimate the power of nature.